I'd just like to take a few moments to introduce Sriniji. Srini Gurapu is one of the thought leaders here in the Silicon Valley. He has experience in many startups. So he has been a leader in so many startups that led to disruptive in a good way. In Silicon Valley, disruptive means it's awesome. So he has many experiences with many startups, and he has also held very senior positions in big companies like Microsoft, and presently he's also working as an executive at Apple. And Sriniji is also a yoga champion. He has been practicing, he started with the Bikram yoga, and he was so passionate about it that he participated in the national Bikram yoga competitions, and he also won many awards in that. So you should see his yoga postures, they are impeccable. So when we were talking this morning about back bends, I was thinking if you want to see a perfect back bend, you should see Sriniji's back bend. So one day when he joins us for the practice, I've been inviting him for a long time. So you can see his back bends, they're like picture perfect. It's so photogenic, you can take a picture and hang it on a wall. So good it is. So we are very fortunate today that Sriniji is going to guide us through some of the principles of marketing and some of the principles that are foundations to marketing, like how we should be, the brand and the brand identity and so forth. So I greatly look forward to Sriniji's presentation, and I'm sure all of us are very eager to hear from him as well. So Sriniji, over to you.
Namaste. And first and foremost, I regard Sriramji and Ekaji as my gurus, and it's such a blessing for me that I even have an opportunity to participate and join you guys in this session. It's such a blessing for me. And as by my profession, I do speak at a lot of conferences, and I work in marketing and I do sales. This is probably the toughest session for me, because the reason for that is, Ekaji and Sriramji set such high standards of excellence in everything that they do. So of all the things that I do, this is probably my toughest session. By way of my introduction, I'm trained as an engineer, and I used to write code. I never did any MBA, I did not do any marketing, but that's my job now. I do sales and marketing, I run product strategy. So some people say that you have an MBA or marketing degree from University of Hard Knocks. It means we actually learn it by doing it. So the thing that we want to focus today is we all invest so many resources and energies. For example, we invested so many resources and energies in the EkaShri Teacher Training Program. But where do we go from here? How do we create the maximum influence in the community that we represent? That way, our ultimate goal is to influence as many people in the community to take the path of yoga. And we're all brand ambassadors, we're all leaders in that effort. But when you take this position, how do we create the maximum impact with less resources? That's where some of the tools such as branding and marketing help you to get the maximum value from the investment that you're making. From everything that we have, all of you are already trained teachers. You have all the knowledge, and from the EkaShri, we have all the holistic training. But now, as you're taking on the responsibility of spreading this knowledge to the people around us, how do we create the maximum impact? We can all have an individual setting where we could have one person and we can do one-on-one training, but that's not the maximum way. That's not what the God wants us to do. So the session today is how we can use some of the tools and methodologies so that we can achieve our goal much more efficiently, and we can actually spread the message of the yoga and the unity and the excellence to as many people that we can serve. Does it make sense? And how many of you want to open up a yoga studio? Anybody have Oh wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. Awesome. How many of you want to seriously take the teaching, the yoga teaching in whatever the community that you want? And I think the way I look at it is, one is yoga is more of a swadhyaya, that's for our own self-study. But I think we have to influence the communities that we are in to spread the message of yoga. Now that you are chosen with all this knowledge, we all need to invest in it. So what I'm going to do is, it starts with defining. We all need to have a clear definition of who we are as a person. And all of us are very unique. We have certain unique characteristics. And we need to bring them forward in an efficient method so that we can actually create an identity and people naturally want to follow who we are. And you already have the knowledge of yoga. Now, if you couple that with who you are as a person, if you project it, then you become such an influential and impactful leader in the community. Like for example, Sri Ramji or EkaShri. And if you say the name of Sri Ramji, it already creates an emotion for all of us. That's a brand. The name of Sri Ramji is a brand. And the brand is not just limited to this room. The brand resonates in the valley, in the Texas, and I've actually witnessed it. The first time I took a workshop of Sri Ramji and EkaShri lessons about 2 years ago in Woodlands. And I could clearly see, it's almost like a devotees following Sri Ramji. And the one thing is, Sri Ramji did not invest, but Sri Ramji's character and personality, it got projected. But there are some things that EkaShri and Sri Ramji do. Those are, if we can formalize this, we also can be the mini Sri Ramjis in the communities that we can, because we are all ultimately here to serve the overall purpose of Sri Ramji and EkaShri. And we are the ambassadors. Okay. And then Sri Ramji is serving the purpose of his gurus, and we just need to carry forward the tradition. So the thing that I'm going to do today is, the interesting thing is, last week, and one other thing that I wanted to introduce is, I was supposed to be part of all of you as part of the teacher training program. And I signed up for that one teacher training program. But in the last 3-4 months, I took a new job at Apple. And in the last 4 months, we were actually going through a new branding exercise for our division, the new vision strategy. And we just unveiled it at our annual DevCon in Orlando. So I was super busy with the work. So it's timely that we just went through this exercise of what does a brand mean and how we went through the massive rebranding of our division. So I thought some of those things will actually help us. So what we'll do is we'll look at some of the brand objectives. Why do we need to create a brand? What are the objectives of creating a brand? And what are some of the core assets that we need to build that convey the brand image? And then there are certain themes that I want all of us to follow. Things like tell your story, which I will cover in detail. And next, after we focus on the brand, what we want to provide you with are some tools and techniques on how you can carry forward the EkaShri brand, the EkaShri School. Now that you're certified teachers of EkaShri brand, we want to talk about some of our core values. I want to look at our core values, and so that how you can build on it and how you can reinforce them. And towards the end, we can actually open up some question and answer. Anything else that anybody wants to, we're looking forward to, something that I'm not planning to cover? Go ahead.
So how do you market yourself as a teacher? So you're teaching for a studio and they're not very good about social media or whatever, they have certain rules. How do you market yourself?
So that's the core question. So whether you're part of a studio, whether you're working for a company, all of us need to have our own personal brand. My personal brand doesn't just stick with my current position. Today I'm working for a division at Apple. And until before, I was working for a startup that got acquired by McAfee. And before that, I was doing so many startups. But my brand is decoupled from the companies, the positions that I'm in. So we all need to invest in building our own brand. If need be, it starts with you already have assets, like for example, your LinkedIn profile, your Facebook profile. Those are all the tools, those are your brand assets already. Similarly, if need be, all of you should have your own website, your own blogs, and we will look at some of the assets and how you do that. So don't limit your identity to the position or the opportunity that you're in. Your brand identity is yours. Define yourself. That's much bigger than the position that you're serving. So even EkaShri is also a part of you, but your brand is even much bigger than even EkaShri. EkaShri is just one dimension of your brand. There are so many other facets that all of us will have. We all need to project, where EkaShri is one facet of that. The yoga is one facet of that. So we'll look at that. So why do we need brand? Why do we need a personal brand either for ourselves or the studio that you're building? The first and foremost is, it's to serve our customers in whatever the capacity that we need. But how do we attract customers? How do we serve them? Customers will only trust us when we make an emotional connection. It's beyond a logical connection. Logical connection is very transactional. You know, I give you something, you give me back something. But the relationship ends right there. When it becomes transactional, it doesn't have a value beyond the boundary of the transaction. But when you make something as an emotional connection, it's not tied to a specific transaction. So your relationship with EkaShri is not bounded by the time that you spend at the 200-hour teacher training. Here what we are doing is, in addition to the curriculum, we're making an emotional connection. We're learning about the culture of the EkaShri, the core values, and the philosophy that Sri Ramji or Ekaji is teaching. Is much bigger than a yoga teacher training. So what we need to do is, by establishing a brand, we make an emotional connection, and that emotional connection becomes the foundation for us to build lifelong relationships. That's what we are looking for, so that people want to follow. So now, like if I were to take the example of Sri Ramji or Ekaji, now we all want to follow Sri Ramji no matter where they are, whatever they're doing. That's a lifelong relationship. And that relationship or the brand identity is not transactional. It's not because I attended a Bhagavad Gita workshop or I attended a Patanjali Yoga Sutra workshop. It's a much long-lasting relationship. When you make that emotional connection, and when you start building these lifelong relationships, ultimately it creates a sense of trust. Then people don't question. They don't, if you were to start a yoga studio, every day whoever is your students coming to the studio, they have to make a lot of sacrifices. They have to do a lot of logistical planning to actually come to the yoga studio. So once you make that emotional connection and the relationship, the thought process quiets down. You simply want to go do it because you've already established the trust and the emotional connection, the relationship. So the continuous chatter about, should I go to the class today or not? That goes away. We simply want to follow it. So that's the personal brand following. I mean, we have seen this. I mean, many of you talk about some of the gurus that we have, whether it is Sadhguru, Art of Living, Sri, or other schools in the yoga, or even in the technology fields, whether it's Steve Jobs or Elon Musk. All of these people, or Bill Gates, they all build personal brands. Now people simply follow them. And we all have the potential, we all have the capabilities to establish the brand, to become the ambassadors or the leaders in our own community. So now that we know what is the branding, how do we establish a brand? The first and foremost, if you look at the brand, what are the things that it's going to do? One is, we are increasing the awareness of who we are. What does our brand mean? Increasing the awareness. We are attracting the right type of people. At the same time, we are keeping away the type of people that we don't want. Like when we communicate this as an EkaShri Yoga School, we have a certain profile of the people that we want to come into the class. At the same time, we also don't want certain type of people. People don't come here to do pop or rap or this. So we are being very clear about the type of people that we want to attract, the people we want to follow. At the same time, the type of the people that we want to keep at bay. And the things like, some of the things that we need to do is, a brand is such a responsibility, it doesn't get sticky with one touch point. It needs to be a continuous nourishment. We need to have so many touch points to reinforce the same values, reinforce the same vision and mission statement, reinforce the same practices. Unless and until you have consistent touch points, you will never succeed. And ultimately, all the things that we do, that's how we are going to grow in our mission. In the EkaShri, in this dimension, our responsibility is to spread the message of yoga and the unity and excellence to as many people. So that's all, we are all signed up for that. When we all sign up for that, we need to make sure that, we need to sign up for the growth. Actually, it's not, growth doesn't necessarily mean the monetary growth. That's a byproduct. We are all signed up for a bigger thing, which is to spread the message of unity and spread the message of prosperity and peace to as many people. So that growth can be achieved by, brand becomes a tool to achieve that. So some of the assets that you need are, number one, for all of us, we need to have a vision, why we are here. And that vision translates to a mission statement. A vision is more forward-looking, it's more futuristic. Like, for example, when John F. Kennedy said, we want to go to the moon, that's a vision. And then it translates to a mission statement, which is, that means we are going to build these types of satellites to actually help us get there. So vision is a very forward-looking. For example, in case of EkaShri's vision is oneness and prosperity for everyone. Did I say that right, Shriramji? It's unity and prosperity for everyone. That's our vision. And our mission statement is to promote that via yogic excellence, or by promoting holistic yogic practice. So we all need to define, for example, if you're building your own yoga studio, you need to have a clear vision and mission statement. And vision is, I've seen vision and mission statements for a lot of people to promote healthier lives, to promote happier lives. I mean, ultimately, the bigger purpose is, how do we create harmony in the societies that we are in? That's what yoga is all about. So create a vision, create a mission statement, and the more important thing is, all of us need to sign up for certain core values. At best, we need to have 3, maximum 5 core values for who we are. And I'm going to talk about some of the EkaShri core values, the 3 that we started with, and we'll probably add more, but there are 3 core values that we signed up. So similarly, in your journey and in your pursuit, in your ambition, you need to clearly have a vision for who you are and what you want to achieve, and translate that to a mission statement, and then describe some core values, because I could actually get to that vision by any means. Like, for example, if I want to get 100 people into the yoga room, I can actually bribe, everybody, give everybody $100, hey, please come to the yoga school. Or I can actually, if there are, kids, you can actually, force them, you must, go here. Or there are certain values that we actually, the core values describe the boundary, sets a boundary on how we are going to achieve the vision or the mission statement. Those are extremely important. If you don't have a core values, then it can be a wild affair, right? Anybody can do whatever the way to actually get to where you want. The core values describe how we are going to do that. Okay? And along with that, we will also have a visual identity. Visual identity is extremely, extremely important. It starts with your logo, it starts with your color palette, it starts with, and all of you perhaps already have a visual identity, whether you know it or you don't know it. For example, if you create your own Facebook profile, or the types of clothes that you wear, or the type of, we already have a visual identity, whether some people are conscious about it, some people are not conscious about it. And in fact, what I was told, I'm practicing this, if you look at some of the leaders, like, take Mark Zuckerberg, or Satya Nadella, or Elon Musk, or some of the people, they wear the same dress. every day. They same color. In Steve Jobs is a great example. Right? If you look at Steve Jobs, he has the black and black turtleneck, or jeans and a turtleneck, black turtleneck. That is the visual identity. So by creating the same visual identity, what it actually creates is a sense of trust. So that people that want to follow you, they see the same picture, the consistency. And subconsciously, it creates a sense of trust. So when we are creating a lot of messages, if you don't have a unified theme of a visual identity, it may not create that immediate follow-on or immediate trust. So creating a consistent visual identity, and that is something that we at EkaShri put a lot of focus on, making sure that our logo or color palette or the collateral that we produce, course material, we want to maintain excellent quality. And of course, we could be doing more. That's one part of the visual identity. But even at some point, some people say, if you're a teacher for the yoga class, wear white and white. I mean, that's kind of a visual identity. What that creates is a certain element of trust. So invest in your visual identity. And then the tone. Any messages that we do, it sets a tone. We can actually communicate the same message in different tonal modes. So something that actually align with your core values. Like the thing that I like to do is, in terms of my tonal voice, I want to create a sense of optimism. I want to communicate a sense of resilience. I want to communicate a notion of trust, honesty, or the quality. We need to define what are the tonal voices that we are going to communicate, and that needs to be consistent in all the messages that we do. So recapping, brand is an essential tool to create these lifelong relationships so that people can trust you, and it helps build the growth that we want. And the growth for whatever the mission, whether it's spreading the message of yoga, or if you're doing other pursuits in your life, brand becomes an essential tool. And that, we need 5 assets. It starts with having a clear-cut vision, what we are trying to do, and a mission statement, and define the core values that sets the boundary on how we are going to achieve the mission statement and the vision, and a consistent visual identity that is enforced across all the touch points that you have, and a tonal voice that creates the right amount of emotion, so that people can just look at the messages and they create a sense of hope and a sense of opportunity and sense of integrity or even peace. Any questions? Yeah? So so does anybody want to define any vision or mission statement that you're chasing? People who want to set up a yoga studio, do you already have a vision or a mission statement that's defined?
I don't have one.
I see. But that's actually
Yes.
good. Could be a good homework for you.
Exercise,
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, very rarely you get that right in one shot. You have to iterate on it. Then more often than don't focus on the precise words. Just communicate what you're trying to do. Just be verbose on the thoughts, all you have. Just start writing it and then iterate it. Then it automatically becomes concise. And it requires you to take a hard look at yourself. And the next few slides will actually help you reflect on different points that actually help you narrow down on your vision and mission statement. And does anybody have a visual identity already in mind for who you are as a brand? Venkat, looks like you have a visual identity. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. But it's important. I think what happens is, or at least in my own experience, at some point we all know that this is a costume. There is a phase that we go through. We basically want to dress up and wear all kinds of costumes, and because we're all trying to attract. At some point, this just becomes a garb. And then it was interesting for me. All the presentations that I did, I always used to wear a suit. This is the first time last week where I simply said, okay, and Apple actually doesn't recommend people wearing suits, even in the big conferences. So I just wore a jeans, and it's just so relieving. And then, just wore a shirt, and then I even said, okay, let me roll up my sleeves. It was so relieving. Then it was more like, okay, my visual identity is, it just created an image that, okay, it's a jeans and some shirt, and then we started focusing on the content. So at some point, we are going to transcend the position of I want to attract others to I just need to maintain something simple and consistent. And then that's the image that you would have. And then you move on to serving it does its job. That it establishes the relationship, it establishes the trust, and then you focus on what you're set out to do. And even the tonal voice. Tonal voice is also extremely important. So the thing that I would recommend that you do, it's not a homework, I'm not going to ask you, but start working on detailing or at least writing down who we are and what's our vision, what's the purpose, why we are here, or why we took the teacher training, and start working on what are the core values that we represent. We all sign up for some core values. We all have that. Just start writing. Then you are actually already working on your brand identity, your own personal brand identity, your own tonal voice. Go ahead, Shiramji.
Today I made a decision.
Yeah.
That I will work on my visual identity.
Yeah. I think for you, the thing is you are beyond the visual identity. You don't need to create identity to create that trust and relationship.
Steve Jobs himself said.
Yeah. But I think that's something that I'm trying to practice now. Before I used to have all kinds of, then I want to wear only the white and white whenever I'm in a yoga class, and that too pure cotton, and these are some other things. It's also, I'm experimenting with different things, right? It's actually working out great for me. I actually feel very liberated. It is giving more freedom to do what I want.
So, I'm not a marketer. I'm more, so my perspective is, and I think this first is, as we talk about, what our objectives are and everything, it goes back to the concept of Swadharma, right? What first identifying, okay, there have been several reasons why are we doing the YTD, right? I mean, each of you walk around and speak, it could be for, self-growth, self-development, knowledge, increase, expansion, etc. And, maybe everything to start, yoga studio or teaching one-on-one or, whatever. So first is identifying what, why you're doing this, what you're doing this, and what your, how it connects with your, life goals and so on and so on. So that is one. Then two is, consolidating that, and the brand identity should come from that. These visual identity, tone and everything, if the passion and, thing comes, then those are accessories.
Yeah,
is my opinion.
True. In fact, the next slides actually go through a 14-point workshop, a worksheet on all the things that you need to answer. That will then help crystallize what is the vision, what is the mission statement, and then the brand identity. So these are the tools or the assets that you need to then go reach to your customers. Because you cannot have a one-on-one discussion with everyone to explain who you are. What the visual logo, as an example, Apple logo create already an emotion behind it because you've already established the brand. Right? The visual, or even the tonal voice, and those are the things that creates a certain emotions. But having said that, those are the tools. I'm a big believer that your actions and your deeds ultimately determine who you are. That defines who you are. What the brand assets are going to do is they only accelerate your reach. If your actions and deeds are inconsistent with your brand identity, you're not going to go anywhere. In fact, you're going to be spending more effort than what is needed to get to where you are, and you're going to fail. So the visual identity and the tonal voice, core values, these are all the tools that you can use to accelerate your success on the growth of whatever the mission that you are in. But they are important assets. They are important assets. Go ahead.
So, would you say that some of these, obviously, your vision and mission statement, core values sort of have to be gel a bit, but can they also be a little bit more fluid to allow a person to grow and maybe express new aspects of their own development as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, the more you project, you bring your own personality, it actually works great. And we as people, we are continuously evolving. At different stages of life, we may take on different, ambitions, or we have different life choices. And some gurus say that we are all wearing different masks over time. Like people that know me about 10 years ago, they think that I'm a completely new avatar. And about 10 years before, they thought I was a completely different person. And so your brand identity, your core values can be flexible enough, but at the same time, your mission statement also gets refined. You may start with one vision, one purpose, and as you move on, you may take on more challenges, or you may reduce your scope, or so the thing is, it's a continuous iterative process. It's not set in stone.
And that doesn't confuse your, I don't want to say followers.
Yeah, true. It takes a lot of time. Like for example, when I meet the people that I worked before, they suddenly, oh, Srini, what has happened to you? And but there are certain things that are consistent for me, right? If I look at my life now, I define it as 3 pillars. One is technology, the innovation. The second is yoga, and the third one is service. I define as my life has 3 pillars now, right? So I put a statement on, my life is defined as 3 pillars. The last 2 pillars, people did not know, even I did not know that I had this passion. I started on the yoga journey about 10 years ago. And the service, something about, 3 years ago. I mean, before that, I always resonated with the causes, but I've been more active in the service dimension. Because there are life situations, the different things that actually put you in a different orbit. But what is continuous for me, the people that I worked in the professional, because I still have the same technology, they connect me at the brand. So as long as you are maintaining the theme, but if I quit my technology industry and go retire into an ashram, the people that have followed me in the dimension, they will not follow me anymore. Then I would totally have different type of followers. But the people that are still on the innovation, the track, I do have a brand voice. Like for example, I'm very active on my LinkedIn. I continuously post messages about new technologies, what I'm doing. So I'm consistently nurturing that followers. So then for my yoga, I have a different set of people. And then for my service, I have different people. Now I have a new type of followers that appreciate the combo that I have. That, oh, wow, there's a technology plus mix of yoga and service. That's a new type of, in the brand that people are appreciating. But it's not because I consciously did that. My life situations made me put the clarity across the 3 tracks. And I'm investing in all the 3. At some point, I may wind down one of those things, but at that time I don't even care. Once I retire from the technology industry, then I may move into other stuff, or I may get more excited about the technology or something. Then I might wind down. But right now, these are the three tracks that I'm investing. So, going back, if it's incremental, then the people that are going to follow in, they're going to follow in for whatever the track that you are in. If you expand other things, then you're going to attract more followers. The beauty is if somehow you can reach this audience. For example, if I'm in a workplace, in a technology, now I can actually introduce them to yoga. I can introduce them to the service. I'll tell you some stories. This never happened to me before. I travel a lot. I meet with a lot of customers. I host for dinners. In the last 4 years, something remarkable happened. When we meet for dinner, our conversations about the products or the business became just 10 to 20%. we're immediately moving into the conversations where, I start talking about my passions about yoga. I start talking about, what some of the causes that I'm signed up for, and they are sharing their own passions, their own values. I'm to a point where I even went to LinkedIn one day and I posted, it's a very deliberate move. I posted a link on LinkedIn, my professional network, about my yoga posture. And I thought about it. I said, it's important to me that all my professional people know that I practice yoga. In fact, one of my LinkedIn, I just updated my LinkedIn after 4 months about my new gig. But before that, my current LinkedIn profile says I'm a teacher at EkaShri Schools of Yoga. So, but the people that I'm working with, both my customers and employees, they already knew about my identity. And many of them congratulated me. Wow, you actually retired and now you're doing yoga as a full-time. And then I surprised them that, okay, no, I still did not give up my technology, I'm still active. So I think it's not surprising or you're confusing. Sometimes surprise is also a good element that you can use in your brand strategy. As long as it's not a destructive surprise, not a disruptive, but destructive surprise, negative surprise. Right? So let's, any other questions, any other discussions? So let's look at some of the personal brand traits. There are so many articles on the web, if you want to look at what are the different ways of looking at the brand. So this is one article that I liked, that very much about individuals. Why is this important? Now, we're all professionals. Whether it's in the yoga or in the school. We're aspiring to go to a good college. We're already professionals, and yoga is also a profession that we are in, right? I mean, that's also our nature, but it's also something that we are doing to spread the message of the yoga. So some of the things that actually says is, when you're building the brand, these are some of the questions that we need to answer for yourself. But first and foremost is be authentic, as honest as possible. Who you are, but most importantly, who you are not. Know who you are, know who you are not. Why is this important? Anybody have any thoughts? Or which one is more important? Knowing who you are or knowing who you are not? Both are equally important. I think it's sometimes also having a discipline on who you are not or you do not want to be. That actually helps you crystallize more on who you are. If you try to be something that you are not, it's a continuous friction. You're swimming upstream. So it takes more effort than what is naturally needed to get to where you are. So you need to have a discussion with yourself and be honest with yourself. And in fact, answer questions is like, why am I doing this? What's my, and this you need to first define to yourself before you even put it on a website or on your LinkedIn or any places. Define who you are to yourself. Have a dialogue, and if it helps, you can actually look in the mirror and say this to yourself. I think these are some of the techniques that help me. If I'm actually trying to make certain statements about me, and sometimes I take the mirror and then I actually tell to myself. So it is, because now I'm looking at myself and I'm truly having a dialogue with my conversation of who I am, who I'm not. And I'm not conscious of anybody. I'm not trying to impress anybody. I'm just trying to be as comfortable. So that becomes the foundation for defining all the other things, mission statement. Be as honest as possible on why am I here? And the second one is be very clear about the types of followers that you want. Like I said, types of followers that you want, types of followers that you don't want. In the corporate world, like for example, if you were trying to segment the different markets that you want to go after, there is enterprise, there's small business, there's service providers, there's consumers. All of them require a different ways of reaching to them, different messages and different products and different preferences. If you try to cater to everybody with finite resources that we have, you will be diluted. So at some point, you need to have a clear-cut focus on, and that's aligned with the resources that you have, your strengths that you have, and the type of customers that you want, and then the objectives that you have, so that you can then focus your mission on serving your desired target audience. Like for example, even in the yoga community, Bikram Yoga caters to people who want to have a physical practice. And the folks like Art of Living and other schools, they want to focus more on the somewhat of a spiritual and the physical journey. They have a clear-cut focus and the type of, and if you look at the demographics, they also attract a similar type of people. But the thing is, Bikram Yoga does not pretend, or they do not try to cater to all sections of the people. They have a clear-cut focus on, this is what we do, and in fact, consistency. We only do 26/2. This is what we do. We don't have any knowledge. And that consistency, focus actually gives them the effect of reaching as many people that you want. If you try to do too many things and try to do without any focus, you will be spending a lot of resources, but you will not get the right focus, or right the outcome that you want. And the third one is, know your why. All of us need to have a clear-cut statement on the purpose. Why are we on this mission? And that's that important. Once you write something of why are we here, why are we doing this, then that can actually define all the other brand assets. And the fourth one is probably the trickiest one. We all have an image of ourselves, but oftentimes the people around you have a different perception of you. And that alignment is extremely important. And when you want to create a brand identity, it's sometimes more than what you want to project, but if other people all have different perceptions of you, you will never succeed. In fact, what others have a perception, that creates a bigger impact than what you think about yourself. So we need to, if that is your target audience, who you want to cater to, but if they have a different perception of who you think you are, who your products are, we need to actually go first fix that before you invest more on who you are. So just having an honest introspective look, but also having some of the combinations of, hey, what do you think of me? Or what do you think of, having some of the close confidence, even family members or whoever they are, that actually helps you to get alignment between who you think you are and what the people around you are perceiving. And I have this. The reason for that is, like I said, until about 10 years ago, I had a completely different mask. I was known as a cutthroat entrepreneur and just be aggressive. And then I have the different dimensions now. I try to practice yoga and the equanimity, but the samskaras from the previous mask will always be there, right? The vasanas, they carry forward. So sometimes I have to fight upstream. Even when I want to work on deliver a message, the people that have worked with me about 10 years ago, it takes some time for them to warm up to this. So we need to be very, very deliberate about understanding, but I don't worry about that. I know that that's a conscious problem. All it tells me is I have the responsibility to work on it. But that doesn't pull me down. It makes me more responsible of, okay, I have a lot more to work on my perception. And it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of effort to change some people's perception. And it's like one of the Yoga Sutras, Satu Dirgha Kala Nirantara. It's a sustained effort to have an image makeover.
Can I ask?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, one of the common wisdom that floats around is that one's own image of themselves evokes the same perception from others. In other words, if I think
Yeah.
that I'm inferior or superior, whatever, then people's perception of myself will tend to align with it. But looks like here you're suggesting the opposite, rather than trying to change the knob of how I look at myself. Make others look at me in a different way. Is that correct?
So the question is, which one should you focus on? Whether the
Chicken.
other's perception first or your own perception first? The thing is, it's always your image. You always need to focus on who you are. You need to take an introspective of who you are. The main objective that you are trying to get at is how do we align it? The alignment of how others perceive you and what you think of yourself, that's a perfect harmony. But because of whatever the conditions or situations, sometimes the way you think about yourself, the others may not perceive you as that. It may not be because of your immediate context. There may be a bigger context. So what we need to do is be cognizant about it and work on that. It takes long effort to get that aligned. But you always start from who you are. Like I said, we are all continuously evolving. We are continuously evolving, and we have a new image of ourselves, where you're trying to create a new brand identity for yourself. But like I said, I was purely technology and party kind of a guy. Now to technology, yoga, and whatever, right? So the people, it takes some time. It takes a lot of effort to actually cultivate that new brand image. If somebody that's new is a new acquaintance, that's already an alignment, because they only know you based on the context where there's a perfect alignment of who you think you are. They look at the current actions, and their perception will also be similar. But people who have traveled with you for a long time, it takes a long time for them to change the perception. So we need to recognize that, and if that is your target audience, recognize that. You need to address that deliberately. Know who you are not, and from a perception standpoint, and then go have a targeted message for those people. You need to have a separate approach. And sometimes the honesty, which is like, hey, people that you travel, I used to be this, and now I'm here, this is what I'm doing. And over time, when they see the consistent actions over a period of time, then that image, the new brand identity develops. I mean, it happened with me in my own family, like my brother. It took him about 6 years to really assert and validate my passion for yoga. Everybody in my family, they all thought, I was doing it for show off. No, seriously. I mean, because that was who I was, right? Which is as a person, and I'll tell a little bit of my story. But the story is, Srini always wants to be out there, and out there he wants to be the winner of all, and he does all these things. So everybody, they actually ascribe a motive to that. So now, even the yoga, I thought it was more for a show off than anything else. But it took a long time when they see it's like, this is what I do when I'm alone. It's not when I'm with other people, when it's this. And the big conclusion from, or big revelation from my brother was, I think about a year ago or maybe 6 months ago. I asked him to come and record some yoga dance flows that I was experimenting with. So he came and he started recording. And then he saw what I was doing, and he was just like, oh my God, it's scary. You're a different person altogether, right? So, I mean, he's warming up to it, and finally, he basically said, okay, you belong to a different set of people. I said, like, dude, I'm not that. I still belong to everybody, right? But the people that travel with you over time, they're conditioned to certain behaviors, and it takes some time for them to get used to your new brand identity. Right?
I completely agree with you, because in my personal life, same happened. When I was in Bulgaria, I have a master's in international economics. So my family knew me. I was working for economics, and then transformation happened in me, I became a nurse.
Yeah.
So even now, they have hard time believing me when I'm advising them on their health, because
Yeah.
they see me as economics person, they don't see me as a medical professional, because I switched in America when they were not present.
Yeah, absolutely. And some people warm up to your transformation. Some people may not warm up to transformation. Some people may like who you were before, and they may not want to follow you as you transform, because that's not an alignment. So when you know that that's not your target audience, there is no need to put energies there. So when you're talking about understand how others perceive you, we need to know about others' perception. But if that's not your target audience, we don't have to worry about investing anywhere. Your brand identity is not to serve those people. Your brand identity is to serve the people that are your target audience. So then in that case, you just acknowledge it and then you just move on. But my target, like for example, my brother is my target audience. Not that I want to, not that I want to get him into yoga, but it's an important part of my life. So it's a responsibility for me to take him through the journey. With all the confusion, everything that he is going through to understand, the transformation that I'm going through. And the transformation is also not a binary, right? It is like, it's not like, you go from, black to white or vice versa, whatever the bias that you have. It's a progressive, and you still get the impressions from your previous life, and you're still going through this transformation, the transition process, and that creates even more confusion. And I'll, how we are doing on time. And I'll talk about, Sri Ramji always inspires me with the Yoga Sutra knowledge. And the discussion that always confuses my brother is about the Vairagya. And I tell him about Drisha Vishwaka Vitrushnasya, Vashikara Sanya Vairagya. It's a good Yoga Sutra. And the way I explain Vairagya is I practice Vairagya. The notion that people have with Vairagya means sannyasi. That means, you are renunciating everything. What I tell him is, Vairagya means you don't get attached to either pleasure or pain, but you participate in all the activities. And that's a very confusing message. And you see sometimes, I still go do some parties, whenever they are there, if I need to participate, I go participate. Then he gets confused. Hey, I thought you moved into yoga and spirituality. Why do you still participate, right? He wants me to, he's like, no, you are not that. You are still the same old guy. But I tell him, no, I'm on that. If I look at Sri Ramji or Ekaji, it's a complete binary switch. There is no confusion behavior, right? But as I'm going through this transformation, that I'm deliberate, but eventually when they realize that, okay, there is other parts of your yoga and spirituality, that's a big part of you, and then now my brother is one of my big promoters. So these are the examples. As we are going through cultivating our brand, recognize the stages of life, our own evolutionary. As you said, it's not a fixed, it's an evolving, our journey, our passions and our evolution, right? So you need to adapt to it. And as you're going through an evolution, recognize some of the transformational challenges, and these are the tools that are going to help you. Particularly, your others' perception is an important part of your brand identity. The only message is, if the other's perception is not aligned with you, the question that you need to ask is that part of your target audience or the community that you want to take? If they are not, just simply move on from them. If they are, then know that you have more work to do. Yeah, any questions? Does it make sense? Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, just a quick question. What was the transformation for you to go from techie to like yoga?
Yeah, actually, I'll tell you the story. It's an important, my conviction for yoga is double fold. Right? There are many pivots that happened in my life, and very briefly, until 2006, I always thought I could go into any company and make it a huge success. I was somewhat pampered. Right? I did 2 startups, and the 2 startups became big hit. And then I walked into this big, high-profile startup. I was at the age of 34. Was very much sought after in the Valley, and I was VP of product management for this company called FireEye. And I mean, I was recruited by some of the top tier VCs, and it says, actually, you can do this. And something did not, good?
Dave Welsh's company.
Yeah, Dave Duval, yeah.
Duval.
Duval,
Yes.
yeah. Actually, Dave was not there. Before it was Ashar, and then Dave came after me. But within 3 months, because of some things that happened there, I resigned. Then, a month later, I got a call from Vinod Khosla, his office. Vinod Khosla is a very big group. And he had one startup that he was doing with Stanford. He was like, Srini, you can actually come and help us. 2 months later, I resigned. So those things happened back to back, right? Back to back, and then suddenly, for the first time in my professional world, a sense of doubt came into my life. Then I was questioning myself. Until the time, there was no doubt. I just go in and then tackle things. Then I was challenged. My belief system was challenged, and then there was a point in time. And that triggered a lot of these things, right? A lot of different triggers of, then I was getting panic attacks, then I was going through this, the whole in the equation, right? I mean, kids were young, then I was caught up in this whole web of thoughts. What if something happened? My kids are so young, I'm doing this and this stuff, right? Then there was, actually one of my friends is a art of living teacher. And he said, hey, there is this art of living class that's happening. Do you want to go join it? And I still remember on 85, I used to live in Cupertino. 85, if you take the El Camino exit, if you take left, you go to, there's a hospital, New Camino Medical Group, hospital. And then on the right side, if you take right on the exit, that's where the Art of Living course was happening. So I was getting a panic attack and I was driving. And before taking the exit on the El Camino, I was deciding, should I go left or should I go right? If I go left, I would go to the same, it's the same routine drill. You go and then, they will check your EKG. And before there were no eye watches, right? I mean, if there were eye watches, then all the pain would have been saved, right? So I was making a left. And then I was making the decision. I was driving, and I was like, okay. Then I basically told myself, okay, I always do this. Why can't I try something different? Then I took a right turn. Then there I go. Then there I see this big smile of Ravi Patakji, a good art of living teacher. And then that really got me introduced to the spiritual dimension. And then when I was a kid, I went to a Gurukul school. There was a seed of yoga in me. But and I tell this story when I do kids yoga foundations camp. I mean, as a kid, I used to be terrible in yoga. I hated it. So there used to be a deal in my Gurukul. I was Gurukul. People who sign up for some volunteer jobs like cleaning the dorms or cleaning the bathrooms, they get excused from doing the yoga. I will always be the guy that used to volunteer for this, right? I thought that's a better affair, right? And sometimes if we don't have enough volunteer jobs, I used to skip them. So then in India, what used to happen is the physical director, if you miss the thing, then he will bring at the cold weather, he would ask her hands to be like this, and he would have a cane and he would be like doing this. But I thought that was a better deal than doing the yoga posture. Right? So, because I never connected with the essence of yoga, right? So I wrote a blog. It's called Seed, Need, and Deed. So there was a seed was planted when I was a kid, but I did not understand why. Then in the life, the need happened after I was like 35. Then there was a perfect alignment. Then I was like, oh, I learned some yoga as a kid, why can't I do this? And then there was the spiritual art of living thing coming in. Then I started building a passion. Then I was looking for what are all the different ways. And then I was also doing running. And then running, I did not train myself. Then I hurt my back big time. And I have one of the worst spines, what people would say. I could not move. Then I went into a Bikram yoga class. I somehow really resonated with the technique and the back bends and this stuff. Then from the time that I joined in 2009 till now, probably there were very few days where I did not practice. So that's the deed. The seed and the need and the deed. Right? So that came in. So then my conviction, as I started exploring more and more the yoga, I mean, from the postures to the philosophy of various teachers and Sri Ramji and Bhagavad Gita, then it's a symbiosis process that's going on. Now, whatever happened to me, a person who was like really at the bottom with no beliefs, so much insecurity, and suddenly I came back and I started doing it. Somebody said you cannot move until you get the surgery. Like for the past 10 years there is no surgery. So that reinforces your conviction. Once you are deeply convinced, once you develop that conviction, that's the mission that you sign up for automatically. Now, wherever you are, whatever the message, you naturally align with it. So we all go through that trajectory. There is a life story, and in fact, there is a slide that I have on telling a story. Telling a story is extremely important. The way that I tell the story, it's called something called as a redeeming story effect. We all go through in life or situations. There are some moments of the troughs or the bad situations and the peak situation. Right? It's how do you tell the story. If you consistently tell a story of bad to good, that inspires people. Now, when I go to any community or to a yoga class, and if you tell the story of how yoga actually helped you from the redeeming story back to good, it automatically creates a sense of confidence and the trust, and the people would want to follow you. So we all need to build those stories in our life. And the one important phrase that I like, word that I really like in English is resilience. And we all, every person that I talk to, even in my customers, when we now have conversations, everybody is going through some kind of challenge. In life, it's a Kurukshetra, right? It's a battlefield. We're continuously engaged in the action of the battlefield. But how you are demonstrating that and going from bad to good consistently, that you are demonstrating the resilience, that actually establishes you as a leader. Then people would want to automatically follow it. The stories of resilience, I think we need to be consistently telling the stories of resilience to people in every situation. That's the spirit that we want. And then number 5 is capitalize who you naturally are. And once you take stock of your strengths and what are the things that you already have, like if you already have an established visual identity, if you already have established your Facebook or LinkedIn profiles, or if you're already writing something, or if you already have a student. So take stock of your assets already and build your brand identity based on that. Or if you have some core values of you get up every day at 3:30 in the morning, you can weave that into your yoga core excellence. You can tell a story and make that as your differentiation. And be sincere. I think the more sincere, close to who you are and the purpose. If you not sincere with your purpose or the mission, then everything at some point is going to fall off. Why you are starting a yoga studio or why you are doing whatever the mission that you are, once you register the purpose, if you're not honest with your purpose, at some point it's going to fall off. You may get some tactical gains for some time, but it's going to fall off at some time. And have a powerful brand promise. I think this is the consistency in the interaction. Having a visual identity and the tonal voice and the mission statement and the core values and consistently enforcing them, that over time creates a sense of trust. Then people don't have that chatter on, should I go to this class, should I go to this studio? Or if you offer a new course, like for example from an EkaShri, we do Patanjali and the Bhagavad Gita, we don't even have to do that much of an advertisement because people already know certain quality and the excellence and the guru. I mean, people who are available, they simply sign up. If you don't have that, then you have to invest on each and every product. Once you have, like for example, same thing with Apple. Once you earn that right, the brand identity in the new Apple world with your iPod to iPhone, from the iPhone ecosystem, now every Apple product that comes out, it automatically gets somebody to go try it. I mean, watches are a great example. I mean, it's already about $6 billion business every quarter, watches. I remember I have a story. there was a point in time I went in an interview at Google, and as part of the interview, they asked me a question. Srini, can you come up with some ideas of what this next generation teen alarm clock is going to look like? And then we were going through some description of what an alarm clock should do. It should play music, photos, and we were coming up with some multifunctional device. Then at some point, I got tired. I was like, well, these are silly comments. I said, just build something, put an Apple behind it, then it's going to sell. That's I actually addressed it in Google, and then they did not take it kindly. But that's the power of a brand, right? So once we establish the brand and cultivate it, you don't have to do, if you have a new offering, new clothes, new whatever you're doing, people would want to automatically follow you. And then really articulate your value, which is a differentiation, which we're going to talk about that. And there are a few other things. The social media. Choose the mediums that you are on, or the new mediums, and you need to have a consistent content strategy. If you do not produce high quality, consistent content, you have a risk of losing engagement. There needs to be something fresh. Needs to be something value add to people, so that people would want to come and engage with you. People want to be in constant touch with you. Otherwise, what happens is, they are there, but you become a passive brand. So the content is extremely, extremely important. But the content without sacrificing your core values, or without sacrificing your visual identity, or without sacrificing your tonal identity. And I think we already talked about it. And the third one, this goes back to Sriramji's conversation earlier. This is be a person of substance. We first need to feel and imagine who we are, the big person. And first, create a sankalpa and imagine that you are that big person. Like, if you dream yourself to be a studio owner with thousands of people, or if you're somebody who is gonna climb Mount Everest, you first be that big person inside. You have to completely believe and create that visual image in yourself. Then the universe sets into motion the type of actions that you need. As long as you're sincere, authentic, and with all your actions, that be the big person inside first. Take stock of your strength, follow your passion. And the last one that I want to focus on is, I have a big bias for action. I don't believe in perfection. I want to get something out there, be more agile, and continuously refine it. But it doesn't mean that you are not prepared, you just put something out there. Don't spend more time in trying to perfect it. If you have something there, you do it, and you're continuously evaluating what is working, what's not working, and then you have to have a continuous refinement strategy, the agility. And then at some point, you would perfect it, and then you don't touch anything, right? So this is the personal brand tips. So the most important thing is, tell a story. Anybody wants to share a story of your life? Or how did you choose the passion for yoga? Anybody have any interesting stories to say? Anyone?
I have a question to ask.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, and this is, again, going back to what you're good at, what you're not good at, and what comes easily, what doesn't come easily, etc. So the dichotomy I constantly go through is, all this developing your brand, everything, is, you need to work at it. And for some people it will come naturally, for some people it's high resistance. So and now in the modern world, previously, like when I was growing up in India, they would say your work is your brand, right? How you come across what, so that was the thing which I grew up, and then you were supposed to just
Absolutely.
And that was, in the Western world, it's totally different. You can't just be quietly working, you have to make huge noise about it. So, and since my upbringing and training and all that was like that, so it's not something that comes naturally to me. And even today, when I know it is important, relevant, I feel that, okay, my eventual goal with yoga is, even yesterday after the Bhagavad Gita session with in my 5-year plan, I want to develop a status of equanimity. I mean, so that is my ulterior, motive. And whatever takes me there, and whether it comes in terms of teaching yoga or not, whatever. So I just go by my intuition. So then the dichotomy I face is, instead of I have finite amount of time, and instead of investing this time on working on a brand identity, which I think is egoistic, I would rather be spending the time going inward. So, and this goes back to the question that Sriramji asked, right? I mean, and then what my image about me is, with whatever that works for me, I'm continuing on. So it is this, and if you have a level of contentment with how things are going, and I don't see a desperate need, that I have to convert what other people are perceiving about me or putting my brand out there, then, so this is where the, and I don't invest much time on it. I'd rather be reading a Bhagavad Gita chapter, or I'd rather be practicing some pranayama practices or whatever in that time instead of working on my blog or, So
I think that's a great question. I think it all depends on the roles that you choose. Like for example, for most of us, the yoga is for establishing unity within ourselves. It's more of a swadharma, it's self-study, and it's your own internal progress. But some of us also take the role of spreading the message of yoga. We want to serve as leaders or ambassadors. When you take that role, you want to do the right action that helps you get there. If your role is only for your own internal journey, then that's all you need to do. You don't need to even go communicate, you share, you're just focus on your own thing. But the moment you take on a role, that if you look at it, that's what probably a majority of the Hindu philosophy is, more of your own individual journey. Buddha also did not even go out and start preaching, right? But at some point, some people actually followers said there's value in actually spreading it. Then there was an institution where they didn't have as many of marketing tools, but they did travel a lot. They did travel, they communicated, they invested a lot of resources because they thought this is a essence that's valuable to a lot of people. They took on that role. But that message probably did not travel as many people. Now, there are more and more people, it started with probably Vivekananda, that the message of yoga need to actually go reach the universe or rest of the West. And they put a lot of effort. Vivekananda could have just focused and sat in a room. And he's already worked on his process of enlightenment. His guru did that, Paramahamsa. But he took on another role. He wanted to spread the message of yoga to the people. So when you take on this other role, these are no longer egoistic. These are the right tools to help you achieve that. It's not even considered a sales and marketing. It's the mission that you are on, and when you take on that mission, what are the right things that we need to do to help you succeed? But
I read when we went to Paramahamsa Yogananda in his book, he many times he said he was tired of being in America. He wanted to go to India and stay with enlightened people because he wanted to be at peace, and it was a lot of effort for him to transform and adapt and whatever. But he said, "This is what is my mission. I'm helping so many people, and if I look inside, what is better for me to help other people who are suffering with what I learned, or to go deeper, the other part was stronger." So it's not a sacrifice, but it's a mission. I mean, this is what he needed to do.
It's a role. In fact, I always examine these examples. Like for example, if you look at other examples, I'm not qualified enough to even quote any of these people, but I just say what my interpretations are, right? Because I can only be out there. Like for example, Ramana Maharshi. He just stayed in his own cave in Arunachal, and then he focused on his own. He didn't even speak.
But he did transform people, just by virtue of that. So it also depends on,
So but the scale and effect of that, probably, then there are people like Vivekananda who actually took the path of action. Where, in fact, when I read some of the Vivekananda books, the travel that he did from Boston in a train, and he was like, he was in Chicago, he did not know anybody, he was like all the things, right? And And if you look at it, Vivekananda ji, he also did not live that long. Right? But the amount of things but that is a role that he took on, right? So for us, the question to ask for ourselves is again being sincere about what we want to do. If the purpose for ourselves is our own self journey and the progress, then the best thing to do is just focus on this stuff. But if you also sign up for the other purpose of I want to spread, and even there are no quotas. You can actually just spread the message to your own family. If that's what you sign up for, then there is easier ways to do it. If you want to take a spread of, I want to be an influencer in bigger communities, then we have to go travel. You have to do like what I see Sri Ramji and Ekaji do it. On the weekends, we go travel to Houston or other people, and sometimes is for on our own money. And there are so many people. So I think once you be clear about what are the missions that I'm signing out, the right actions that enable you will actually remove the conflict. So there are two types of storytelling. One is, and for all of us, I think there is only one thing that I would want to leave you with is, we all need to be storytellers. Every situation, we need to tell our own life journey as a story. And there are two types of storytelling. One is a redeeming, victorious, resilient storytelling. The other one is, you see a lot of people that tell more of a contamination stories. For them, everything is, if you look at their narrative, they're like, oh, we used to be like this, but now we are like this. The past was, we were always this. So they're always going from good to bad. It's the same situations, it's how we are narrating the story. And that is an art that we need to inculcate in ourselves. This is, and that, I've learned some best practices from like Bikram Yoga San Jose community. They do such a great job in the community building. They feature heroes. They have a lot of people who do the yoga practitioner. They have similar stories. There was one yogi practitioner who got an accident. He was obese, he could not do anything, and he did Bikram Yoga for 6 years, and he is recovered from the injury. But the thing is, it's a position of adversity to becoming a hero or somebody who overcame adversity, and then yoga become a part of a tool. Whether yoga is part of a tool or not, the first and foremost is your life journey should be a continuous series of redeeming stories. You need to tell a big part of your brand identity is telling your life as a story, as episodes. And if there are any episodes that include yoga as part of the transformation, then we should actually help with that. And that creates an image of anytime somebody overcame adversity. In fact, adversity is probably the greatest opportunity that we ever get. And if you look at the college admissions, what they're like Stanford, my daughter went through this process, or Vidyaji went through this process. When you write the statement of purpose, I went and talked to a lot of deans. What they told me was, they're not really looking at the statistical scores, the SAT or other scores. What they are actually looking for is this student or can be a good citizen, can be a resilient leader. They're actually looking at your circumstances. If somebody grew up in a underprivileged neighborhood or family, and somehow they achieve not at the same level of success as somebody that scored all the good statistical score, they give preference to those people. They are looking for citizens who demonstrated their resilience and how they overcame adversity and became heroes. And it could be many. I mean, I've heard so many kids tell me their stories. They're super, super inspiring. And in a way, I started now telling my life story as part of stories. And in fact, at the recent annual conference, I did a visionary keynote. And they said, Srini, do you want to tell a story? So I actually told a story. And it made such an impact and connection to people. So this is one story. And the story is, I grew up in a southern part of India, in a small family with very humble means. And I told a story of my dad riding both my brother on this family bicycle to this premier institution in India. And he said, dude, someday when you grow up, you need to get into this college. And I told this story. And from there, I somehow ended up coming to United States, even though I didn't want to come. And then I somehow ended up in the cornfields of Nebraska. That's the story that I said. I went to somehow Nebraska because I had a cousin. And very quickly I realized that there was no opportunity. And I did not have any money. So I took a Greyhound, traveled for 2 days, and went to University of Florida and became a gator. And since then, I've been part of building several successful companies. Now that's a redeeming story. It's like position of, kind of an adversity, a different situation, but at every point in time, you're going from an adverse situation to a better situation. And an outcome. Now this story, and everybody is when they are in the challenging situations, they want to see themselves in such kind of an outcome. And we all can do that. So all of you in your life journeys, you probably have many such stories. Every moment you made some difficult thing to something more happy. And the best part about Apple is we use less slides, we use less text, we only use pictures. So all of you can maybe create some pictures from your life and start narrating these stories. Yeah, that's and let's come to EkaShri, the core values. EkaShri, this is such a fortune for all of us in the world, in the community, and we are just getting started. But I think the force and the expression of EkaShri, in the coming years, we don't know, but I have a lot of beliefs around that. And the Eka, I think we all know, Eka represents oneness and Shri represents prosperity. And we believe that prosperity across all dimensions, whether it's health, wealth, success, money, love, there are many different dimensions of prosperity. And they all can be achieved through just being oneness. Oneness within you and oneness within the people around you. So if you simply follow Ekaji and Sri Ramji, Ekaji and EkaShri, and we all can achieve our ultimate potential. So this is our vision and mission statement, unity and prosperity for every citizen on this planet. But how do we go about doing that? We wanted to establish some core values. And the core values, number one, we want to teach a holistic system of yoga, holistic practice of yoga. And that's what is our EkaShri signature. There's a combination of postures and knowledge series, breathing exercises, meditation. It's the whole system that we actually do. And that's our differentiation. And there are more differentiations, which I'll get into. And the second thing, this picture of Ekaji and Sri Ramji always inspires me. What that demonstrates to me is the excellence. It's not only the holistic, but the holistic combined with excellence in everything that we do. Whether it's the yoga postures, whether it's a knowledge series, if you take a Yoga Sutra in a course or a Bhagavad Gita course, everything is covered to the last detail, and if I were to say this right, it's Sarawa. It captures the essence of everything that we know. That's excellence. And the third one that we want to focus on is we want to be cognizant of the demanding situations or the challenging schedules that people have. So we want to design our services or anything that we do, EkaShri offerings, in a flexible manner so that it can reach as many people. So some of the things we do, whether it's online versus physical, or dividing the 200 teacher training program into different modules, or if you need to go to a different city, we actually do that. So these are, because ultimately we want to spread the message of yoga and the potential of unity and prosperity to everyone. But while doing that, we want to make sure that we always represent the holistic nature, and we always want to represent the excellence, and we always want to create in a way that's flexible to our users. And these are our foundational values. There are three. And if there are more, we can actually do it. So what our request to all of you as certified EkaShri Yoga teachers, build on these. Build on this, and if you want, you can actually also add other core values. Does it make sense? Do these core values make sense? Yeah, and do we agree? Yeah. And the differentiation, when we come up with a holistic, the EkaShri, we have a signature. In terms of our yoga, the posture practice is based on Vinyasa Krama. And we want to make sure that we stick to that signature so that it creates the consistent brand identity. If people come and practice different styles of yoga, it does not create the brand identity. But at the same time, we integrate. In fact, one of the other core values that we did not explicitly put here is that we integrate and partner with every yoga school. We are not here to compete with anybody. We actually work with, whether it's a Bikram yoga, whether it is art of living, whether it's Isha. We work with all these schools. And in fact, we want all of you to do the same thing. We are not here to have a dialogue on, our school system is better than your school system, your school. We recognize, in fact, one of the things that when we had the earlier discussions, we start focusing on all the strengths from all the schools. In fact, Sriramji or Ekaji, they go practice some of the Bikram schools. And one of the lessons that we learned is we appreciate what works and we don't focus on what doesn't work. So we are partnering with as many schools as possible, and we never go and bash against anybody. But having said that, we have our own signature that we're going to continue to promote, which is Vinyasa Krama, holistic knowledge system, focus on knowledge, focus on meditation, focus on breathing. And this is something that we would request you to continue and build upon this. And how do you further differentiate? If you want to create more differentiation products in your own community, there are some ideas. Like for example, you can create specialized offerings for perhaps EkaShri for kids, or EkaShri for some therapy, or EkaShri subclass. If you want to do specialization, EkaShri Patanjali Yoga Sutras, or Patanjali Yoga Sutras for your own workplace, tailored to your own workplace. And I created a product based on EkaShri, whatever the coursework that Ekaji and Sriramji put together. We created something called EkaShri Foundations that I tailored for kids. It's a 20-hour program. So you will have that flexibility as long as it conforms to the holistic and it follows the Vinyasa Krama and the careers, and you can further embellish on. So at this time, we don't have the strict brand enforcement, franchise and this stuff, because we all are aligned on your message of your commitment to spreading the message of yoga in the EkaShri style, representing the core values of holistic excellence and the flex. Any questions on this? What our plans are? Right now we are still forming the brand identity and what does EkaShri actually mean, but these are some of the foundational principles that we are working on. Any ideas, any thoughts that anybody have? Particularly the folks who want to open up your own yoga studio. Yeah.
So, I haven't had a chance to discuss this with the team, but for example, we were at a neighborhood gathering, and so someone has severe back issues, all those things. So in terms of, and then trying to do this in a group setting is going to be a challenge. So in terms of, when someone is in different stages of health, that is, so what would our approach be? One is this primary series, it assumes, normal health status, etc. But then when someone comes with, kind of compromised health condition, then how do we, customize, from these modules, etc. That is something
In
that
fact, we did cover this in posture clinics.
Yeah.
We did cover this.
today.
No,
In the-
in the whole training.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And also
even
to-
for the whole series to be customized.
And
Yes.
therapy,
Yeah,
that's
correct.
yeah, go ahead.
To add on to that, one of the logistic things to deal with is first of all, this certification, the 200-hour program is not a therapy.
Therapy, yeah.
It's not yoga for therapy because that's a separate track.
Right.
And Yoga Alliance doesn't certify yoga teachers for yoga therapy.
Correct.
In fact, Yoga Alliance is very militant about it. If they see some therapy in any yoga studio that has Yoga Alliance stamp, then they will go and question them unless they have received a certification from another institution. And the other one is IAYT, International Association of Yoga Therapists. So that's a totally different track. It takes a much longer time, 800 hours I think is the program for to become a yoga therapist. But even if someone is a yoga therapist, as you rightly point out, it's not like a uniform class. Usually therapy sessions are more one-on-one or perhaps 2 or 3 people who share similar health conditions.
No, my point is, I don't know about other people's experiences, but in my experience, even from your story, and if I had to share my story, many of us have, some life situation that pushed us towards yoga.
Yeah.
And so whom you encounter, people are doing their physical fitness and all those things, and then they encounter, invariably they look to yoga when they had some kind of
Yeah.
health setback.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is, so the audience, the customer base that will think about yoga, majority of them is when they have some kind of a setback, and that's when you say, hey, will you try yoga, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it is this, so when the customer base, is saying, hey, I have a back issue, or I have this nerve pain, or I have fibromyalgia, or I have this, then, how do we, introduce
Yeah.
this, training, when they have some kind of.
One is the way that I approach here is I share my experiences. I also explicitly tell them I'm not a certified therapist or a doctor to provide this. But I share my experiences, and these are the guidelines. If you want, you can follow some of the things, but you explicitly say, like, I'm not a certified therapist or a certified doctor, that they need to consult. So that's the disclaimer. But having said that, from my experience, these are the things that help, and then you can also cite the incident. So you can actually provide guidelines, but if you make the claim of I'm going to cure your therapy, I mean, I sometimes do that with the friends that I know, with the friends that I know, but with the disclaimer that I cannot really do any I'm not a certified thing, and I tell them, like, hey, if you have a back pain, this is what you need to do, and I can take care of your pain. But those are my personal with the close people. But for everybody else, you just need to share your experiences. This is what I do, and this is what yoga helps. But I'm not a certified therapist, or I'm not a certified doctor. And you should never, as Sriramji said, you should never quote, in those situations, you should never use the role of I'm an EkaShri teacher. You should not bring EkaShri. That's your individual role, right? Here, as Sriramji said, we're only yoga teacher training. We're not trained therapists. So there is a separation of roles here. One is EkaShri. If you are representing EkaShri, then you need to be very, very careful about what you can say, what you cannot say, because that's no longer about you, right? It's about the company. But even in your own individual capacity, you are free to share your own experience, because this is what you're very honest about what you did. Because this is what I happen when I get the back pain. This is what I do. This is how I take care of myself. This is what, and then if you want, you can try this, and you can also research about it. And that's what the yoga knowledge is all about. It basically says, these postures help with this. That's a general knowledge. You can, and then the more stronger evidence is when you relate it to your own experience. This is what you do, and that if you're authentic about it, then I think it serves the right purpose. But you should never claim that you are a certified therapist, and then you should guide them to something of the profession. And you should not represent the EkaShri in those situations.
Maybe in future,
Yeah.
after a few years, we may have a track for yoga therapy.
Like EkaShri Kailash tour, EkaShri therapy, all these products will be there, right? This is all Bulgaria retreat.
So maybe,
We did, you did not attend it, we did, in the primary, we are offering for the teachers, if they experience a student who has wrist problem or back problem or shoulders modification with props.
Mhm.
They can, with not as a yoga therapist, but
Right.
as just to have an idea of how to modify. So we do this in posture clinics.
So Eka, just as we said what we should not do, maybe it'll be helpful to say what can be done under this umbrella of, like 200 hours. So the example I could use is, for example, when we go through the yoga bharati, teacher training, then it is for community classes, right? There's set of sequences that you can offer for the public, community classes. So this primary sequence that we are all, learning here, so that is there, the standard audience with, like modification, not as therapist, but with modifications if there are, small issues, like wrist issues, shoulder issues, whatever. Is there, like the, what you say, our target audience, that this can be?
I think I think that's a go-to-market strategy. Like I said, right? If you want, you can actually create specific needs, but it's what are the claims that you're going to make, which is it's a soft guidelines versus certified cure. As long as you don't really do that, then I think if you want to make stronger claims,
So
hey,
community classes for the general health.
exactly, for the general health and overall. So then a couple of other things, for those folks who are interested in creating a studio, I think maintaining certain brand experience, consistent experience is a good one. This is something that's a work in progress for us. Of course, there are some inviting ambience, and those are some general. But what we are also looking at is, can we actually create an EkaShri poster, posters, with pictures of Sri Ramji and Ekaji, because that represents the excellence that inspires people. Or if you already have, if you already achieved excellence in some of those things, you can actually put your own model. That actually creates a much more personalized experience. So we are still working on that, but at some point, once we have a EkaShri studio kind of recommended and ambience, we will share that with you. But the overarching guideline is make sure that it's inviting, inspiring, so that it actually encourages people to do that prayatna chaitanya. So that people can actually put the effort to get to wherever they need to go. If it's not inviting, then people would not even put that effort to truly realize their potential. So whenever they see other people are doing what is my potential, and Vinyasa Krama is beautiful that way, and everybody's potential could be different, and then there is a Krama sequence for that. And social media and content, I think we talked enough about it, and I've seen many yoga studios, and even outside the yoga world, social media has become such an important part of our lives. Telling your stories, featuring more and more heroes, or your own stories of resilience, and any new successes that you have in your life, they become part of your elevation of your brand. And this is, I did not see the full appreciation of this until about 3 to 4 years ago. I mean, in the last 3-4 years, I write a lot. And I post something on LinkedIn, I post something on my Facebook, and I share with this. It actually creates an image. And it's actually inspiring others to do certain actions. And coming from India, as Vidyaji said earlier, we were always trained in India not to actually show off your talents, not to display. But I'm actually beginning to change the perception. I'm actually encouraging even the kids to proactively share more of the good things that they're doing. If you did a dance performance, if you did some debate, I want them to post and communicate it. Because these are the behaviors that are going to inspire similar actions in the community. So invest a lot in the social media, and they do not have to be just related to your mission that you're on, whether it's a yoga or the other mission. If there are other success stories, the redeeming stories that are part of your life, please share them too, because that actually builds a personality. And be consistent. And here abundance makes a lot of sense. But abundance being prolific, being continuous touch with engagement. And all the content doesn't have to be just coming from you. They could be simply linking to other articles, what you've read, what you're inspired with it. In fact, Sriramji in the Bhagavad Gita class said, right? Kutakaritan modi. You don't have to be the actor, always. You can be an influencer, or you could just be a witness or an approve of, other good deed that has happened to you that you resonated. That will still create the same benefit. So keep on sharing any relevant, topics, but be prolific as part of your own personal brand. Don't shy away, because you are all ambassadors. You're all leaders. So keep on sharing more and more content. Yet we cannot confuse the brand or the core values. Because the moment just how the power of this reach is, the impact that it would have, but the moment you actually do something else and you put it on the share, then you have a lot of work to do. Then it actually creates a confusion. So you have to be consistent with the message and telling the stories, redeeming stories, and you can integrate as many threads as you want. Like for example, you went for running, or you went and did Bikram yoga class. Even when you're on EkaShri, as long as you pick on what is the incremental stuff, what are the things that you resonate with it, or you went and did some activity, or you went on a trip to some new destination. They're all positive stories. Any positive stories that you can put into it, but maximize your effect on positive stories, the content that's more directly relevant. And this content doesn't have to be written by all of you. It's a perfect link. This can be your own content, or you can link it to, you can be an influencer, or you can link it to other content. But the more metrics is, you need to have metrics for the content strategy, which is how many new assets, because that is your touch point to the people that you want. And when that is frequent and continuous, then that actually helps establish the brand. And particularly, I've seen some successful studios like Bikram Yoga San Jose and even Mountain View. They feature more stories of their own people. They, in fact, invest so much resources in taking professional photography of the students who have a story to tell, and they feature them. They have newsletters, and that inspires so many people. And when that goes out, then so many other people would want to come and join the bandwagon. It's more than the teacher actually showcasing themselves versus featuring your own students and sharing their success stories and the victories is actually a bigger impact than your own. Any questions?
I do have a question. I have a major reluctance to having a social media presence. I know it's very important and it's extremely effective in developing and maintaining a brand. I don't know how to do that because I feel very apprehensive about it.
I actually, like I said, social media is one of the most explosive mediums to reach the people that you want in a fast and effective way. And if your goal is to reach as many people, you need to look at, okay, if it's not social media, what are the channels that you have, right? If you're content with your role of, okay, I want to limit myself to the community of 10 people or 20 people, you don't need a social media for that reach. But if you actually subscribe to, if your vision or mission statement is, I want to touch so many people's life, and the tools that you would have, you cannot individually call them on a consistent basis, you cannot email them on a consistent basis, you cannot do that. These are the tools that are out there designed to help us achieve that. But when you do the social media strategy, that's a strategic asset. Today, for the first time in our lives, in many generations in life's history, that we can communicate to every citizen on this planet in near real time. This power was never there. In any human generation, this power was not there. And this is technology has helped us in a big way. We can actually reach to anybody on this planet in near real time. Now, how we are going to use these channels to realize the full impact. Like, if somebody says, go to YouTube, 70% of the content, 70 or more content is garbage or negative, right? So the tools are not good. It's how we use them is something that we need to be disciplined about. So when you own your own social media channel, you have the discipline. Don't lose control of what you have. And just by the fear of the social media, don't abandon them. You're missing out on the power that we as humans, as generation, we just achieved.
Have you seen any examples of alternative ways or creative ways people have promoted
Yeah.
themselves
Yeah.
without
This is
being
word of
in
mouth.
front of
Word-
anyone?
Word of mouth. So this is the harder way. So if you don't want to be on social media, you need to invest in your own self-development, outreach the community.
Yeah.
So you touch people's lives, so it starts word of mouth, which is slower,
Yeah.
but it's definitely Art of Living. When Art of Living started, Guruji, Shri Ravi Shankarji, he was not known at all.
Yeah.
But with the excellence of his presence and commitment, it took him 20 years, but word of mouth,
Yeah.
one of the safest way, without social media. But it takes, you need to be excellent. You need to invest in yourself, and
Yeah, I
And
think.
an alternative way of using social media without being on it
It's actually,
yourself.
like for example, for me, right, when we did the Yoga Foundation class, we have a local community of 15 in Dallas where I have a house. There are 1,500 houses in one neighborhood. So I don't need social media there. Actually there are better ways of engagement. What I did was for about a year and a half, and I've been trying to get that community to practice yoga. I started sending emails and everybody, and I was trying to teach classes every Saturday and Sunday. There are times where I would have 1, 2, 3, then this, but I did that for about a year. And there are many interesting stories to tell. I actually took a poker gang and converted them to yoga gang. Right? So that's another story. We are running short of time. But then what I did was, around March, I had this brilliant idea. There was this community festival that's happening. Then I said, okay, let me actually get a spot on the stage. And then I could probably touch a lot of people. So at the last minute, I went and talked to the organizers and used my influence, and they said at the last minute I wanted a 6-minute spot on the yoga, and everybody was like, what are you going to do? Are you going to do some sun salutations? What are you going to do? So like, okay, leave that to me. And then, but it's not just me. If I just do myself, it's not going to inspire as many people. Then I started recruiting. I had one family. There were some kids, young kids. I said like, okay, come join me. Then some people, some of my friends, this is like, I never got on the stage, I never did yoga. Okay, don't worry, come join me. So I built a team of 8 people, and we practiced on an idea. What I had was, I listened to one Isha's song, Adi Yogam Pranamam. It has a very good music. Then I composed some moves, and then I trained them. This all happened ad hoc in 2 weeks. And then we went on the stage and we did the dance. And they now call that as the yoga dance. It suddenly created such an impact in the community. Then everybody wanted to participate on the yoga. In fact, Isha teachers came to me and said, can you please teach yoga to our kids? And then very quickly thereafter, some parents took the initiative. Now they wanted to have teacher training, they wanted to have all their kids. And very quickly, some parents took the initiative. We just did it. A 20-hour yoga camp for the kids, about 18 kids. So take opportunities. Social media is one tool where that actually gives you bigger outreach. But the biggest impact that you're going to have is by being leaders, doing the outreach in our own local communities. Going to a library, but don't do that just by yourself. And I think we have some community classes. You should sign up for being community. I used to go teach at the Saratoga Community Center on every Sundays, and that inspired some people. So the social media is not the only alternative, but we need to come up with something creative. And the creative where it's not just you, but you include the people like them. And they suddenly is like, oh, these people, they were like us. In 2 weeks, they are getting on stage and doing this. And those 10 people then became the ambassadors, and then they basically got so many people. It's a domino effect. So social media is one. In fact, I don't think Art of Living has that much of a social media presence. But on the other hand, Isha has a big social media presence. So these are not exclusive, either mutually exclusive. But social media is more suited when you want to cater to a much bigger audience that are not in your near view proximity. Because at the end of the day, our outreach is limited by our physical dimensions. How many people go, you individually talk to, how many people you go individually do it, right? Whatever you can do within your physical dimension, you should go pursue them. I mean, those will always have the biggest impact, anything that is a physical perception. The social media will have a soft touch, but it has the ability to reach more far and to more people, right? And the scale is also much bigger. And these need to be incremental, the physical and like this kind of a training we would not be able to do on social media. This is it. This plus other things like the knowledge workshops. That's how we are going to create a tiered media strategy. And the community, I think this is a big part of our asset. And the big part of the community is everybody needs to create a sense of belonging. That's what community is all about. We all need to have a sense of belonging. And coming to school, we all need to, if you are opening a yoga school, from my experience, getting to a yoga studio or yoga school is a big challenge. It takes effort. Particularly with yoga, when the real yoga is all about you and yourself. When you can actually do this at home all by yourself, why do you have to go to the studio? The studio is because people want to go to that ambience and people want to get connected to the community. And many of us, we need that sense of belonging. So you need to create, nurture that community. And the way you do that is feature the stories of your community, do more activities. It's not just the regular classes, but engaging once a month, like a potluck type of an event, or create more moments so that people can come together and appreciate what they have as part of a community. That will incentivize more and more people to come to the studio as opposed to just doing wherever they are. And the last one is giving and receiving. I think signing up to becoming a yoga teacher is the greatest blessing that we have. I think it's, Eka just says it's so better. This is our Purvajam Samskar, or it's something that, is carryover from our past life, that we have chosen to spread the message of yoga. So we all should be extremely grateful and feel blessed for that. And we all know the laws of universe. It's a give and take, and it's very simple. First it has to start with give, and then you take. So with yoga, we first have to give, start teaching. Then the effects of that will come to you, will naturally come to you. And the other quote along the same dimensions that I say is like, the less that you are, the more you become. The more props that you put onto yourself, like, jacket, this, right? You actually become, initially it may create the effect of your bed, but the moment you start taking off and you simplify yourself, the more you become. It's not just the external thing, but also your ego or who you are, how seriously you take yourself. The less that you become, the more you receive. And the karma theories, which is, if you all sign up for the karma theory, every action has opposite reaction. So the more you are in the giving mode of practicing yoga and spreading the message of yoga, we're all gonna reap the benefits of it. So I actually believe, teaching yoga or spreading the message of yoga is the greatest blessing, privilege, and it's the greatest service that we can be doing. It's service to the community, but it's actually the greatest service that we'll be doing for ourselves. And want to end with one of my favorite scripts. I think many of you probably know this. It's this Asatoma Sadgamaya. Our mission is we're always on this continuous journey. We're going from untruth to the truth. We're going from darkness to the light. Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Mrityorma Amritagamaya. We're going towards immortality. And let there be peace everywhere. And yoga is that process and the journey to help you with our final destination. And once again, thank you Sri Ram ji and Eka ji and Vidya ji and all of you. It's been I did not prepare it, we just had the thing, but just a flow of energy just made it happen. And thank you all.
I'd like to also say a few words. Yeah. We are very grateful to Srini ji. I'm sure he has created a very powerful brand identity, his personal brand identity in our minds, right? And I'm very impressed with the way he so beautifully articulated some of the things that were in my mind, that how to capture it in words, and it was so very beautifully said, capturing the core values, and I think it gives a nice blueprint of how we can be ambassadors of yoga and ambassadors of how we can serve the society, and also ambassadors of how we can be someone who experiences that peace that yoga promises. So we are very grateful to Srini ji, who was actually is a role model of excellence. Like I've seen Srini ji, his pictures in yoga. He started just 10 years back practicing yoga, and then just a few short years with his dedicated practice, achieving such high levels of excellence. It's very inspiring, and we are very fortunate that we have Srini ji in EkaShri Schools of Yoga. It's amazing to have him in our team. Thank you, Srini.
Thank you. And I'll close with one note. When Sriram ji and Eka ji were trying to start the EkaShri school, I was so excited. I was like, let me tell you how we can help you. I can be a soldier and I'll help you.
By the way, let me make a correction in there.
Yeah.
In fact, the idea to start a school was given by him.
So then 2 years later it happened. And then I said, okay, yeah, you guys said the timing is right. And then 2 days later, Sriram ji calls, Eka ji and I would want you to be part of our EkaShri school. And I was like, wow. How can I get this opportunity? Then it was just like, but I'm so blessed, to have the association of Sri Ram ji, Eka ji, and Vidya ji, and like I said, they do all the work. I just I enjoy the benefits. And thank you all. Thank you.